Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. So this video is going to be about Venus in Pisces. So I'm going to do a series on Venus in the signs, and this is the first video because I'm doing it backwards because I like to alternate, but I do actually have a series of planets in the houses, all the planets in all the houses. If you're curious about the house, this is going to be focusing on the sign and our expression of Venus. I do offer personal natal chart readings and synastry readings if you're interested in that, and there will be a video about Venus much more in depth in the description. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to talk about first the more aesthetic material comfort preferences of Venus in Pisces. Then I'm going to talk about values and self-worth. Then love, relationships, approach to relationships. And then I'm going to wrap it up with growth opportunities and challenges. So Venus in Pisces is actually exalted. Venus in this sign has such strong potential to connect to like universal love. The very idea of love on a deep level, a transcendental level, that connection to oneness, to the love that connects us all. This ability to understand and comprehend love in such a deep way is a blessing of this placement. This shows an ability, a potential to transcend the material side of this, the more earthly view of Venus and Venus things, and that focus that we have more on like ourself and our enjoyment on Earth. This goes beyond that. And that's not to say other Venus signs are shallow, but the focus here is much deeper than just beauty and relationships. So starting with the aesthetic of Venus in Pisces, the thing with this placement, I think of like really being attracted to the forgotten one, or the one that's being neglected, what people aren't noticing, having that emotional connection to maybe something that needs recognition, something that needs saving, something that represents a longing or something that resonates with you deeply. That emotional connection is very important here, even when it comes to more surface level things. I also think of like the really otherworldly, ethereal colors, like iridescent, shimmery, color changing, translucent sorts of like makeups and fabrics. And this is also the sorts of art, music that we're drawn to, that resonance with the piece of art, with what we're hearing. It's an emotional experience. It's felt with all the senses. It goes very deep here. You can have a special relationship with art or with your sensory abilities because there's a high level of perception. You're seeing beyond the veil. However, Neptune energy, Pisces, this is also represented by the veil itself, this misty, hazy, gauzy sort of essence of something being clouded, something being hidden behind a curtain, tucked away, waiting for someone to come find it, appreciate it. So there can be a lot of enjoyment in having a deep connection to something that not a lot of other people do. And I also associate more like delicate, fragile things, soft materials flowing, or even like a vintage or timeless look. You could also see the beauty in imperfection. Like, say you have to choose a mug, you might choose the one that has a chip out of it because you feel sorry for it because no one else is going to choose it. That sort of idea is very Pisces. And there's also a real draw to like surrealism and dream-like things with dream-like qualities, or dreams in general. Your dreams could be very interesting, and it's likely super important to pay attention to any patterns that you see in your dreams. Being inspired by your dreams, some sort of relationship with your dreams. So the main thing when it comes to the aesthetic and the more material preferences or artistic preferences with Pisces is that emotional connection and the more intuitive way of going about it, feeling it rather than just seeing it. And there can also be a very strong sensitivity to your environment because Venus also represents like our feeling of harmony within our surroundings and the way that we decorate, the items that we choose to have around us, having a strong connection to items. Venus and Pisces, I feel like, can represent even like a psychic connection with items, being able to pick up on the energy of it, and of course more like soft, sentimental, or even very dark, sad, longing types of energies. Say like music, you might prefer artists that you really resonate with, but music that touches you in a place that feels especially significant. Everything is going to depend on the rest of your chart, whether you prefer things to be more like soft or more action. Everything is down to every individual placement that you have. But with Venus itself, there is this draw to things that make you feel profound emotions. However, there can also be a really strong sensitivity that comes with this. And one element of Neptune and Pisces is that kind of escapist tendency, the hiding things from yourself, maybe even creating delusions, or on a more positive side, this fascination with fantasy and with your own imagination. So you could create beautiful worlds in your head, but you could also be drawn to things that allow you to escape the world, to avoid those deeper, more painful feelings. Your own relationship with your sensitivity and your willingness to go there is going to depend on several other things, especially your moon sign, but the quieter side of things. It's like an appreciation for that quietness and just how significant something more understated can truly be. So this is the aesthetic material side. Let's get into values and self-worth, because Venus represents what we feel is valuable about ourselves, what we feel we can use to attract people, things into our lives, and ultimately the area that we can focus on in order to really create value. Because by really honing in on your Venus sign, and also the house that it's in is going to represent the area of life that this stands out the most strongly for you. But really being in the essence of your Venus is a great way to connect with the parts of yourself that might be underappreciated, might be unseen, but are still very true to you, because our chart shows us like the ideal version of every part of ourselves. And if your Venus is in Pisces, this is a strongly beautiful part of you. Your ability to love and to form deep connections and to also identify the significance in things. The depth that you see in the world is a truly beautiful part of you and is something that needs to be valued. And I do see Venus in Pisces as a very artistic placement. So whatever your form of self-expression is, to be able to really like lose yourself in that inspiration and your imagination can be deeply satisfying. And you can create things that will absolutely move people. But there is a real quiet subtlety to this placement. So it can be harder to put yourself out there. It can be harder to really like have that desire to show off. That can feel a bit selfish, because this is a very selfless sign, sometimes to its own detriment, but I'll get to that in the challenges. But I see also a really strong sense of just beauty coming from this resilience and this hopefulness that comes from understanding love and connection in the way that Pisces energy does. This can be valuing like love as sacrifice or even devotion, a total merging of two souls, losing the self. Boundaries can be an issue as well because of that priority that can be put on like giving, connecting, and sharing yourself. And with the more hidden nature of Pisces energy, this can also be having very deeply private feelings. Feeling things like your connection to something is so personal that you don't even want other people to know about it. You don't even want to share it. Your art could be deeply personal because your self-expression, it's coming from a place of internal depth. However, it can be harder to show things off or even to communicate certain things because of this fear of rejection that can come from what you're doing, what you're putting out, what you are creating, coming from such a personal place. It can feel vulnerable. However, there is a strong sense of beauty in your vulnerability here. This is a way of loving and attracting that is, it's meant to be soft. It's meant to be kind of like open and pliable. This is a mutable water sign. However, it's very important to be aware of when you need to have boundaries, when you need to have discernment and not just let everybody in. So I guess that's going to bring us to love and your approach to relationships. So when it comes to relationships and Venus in Pisces, this is the most giving Venus sign. This is sometimes like a total willingness to just give and not recognize your own limits, which, while it's honorable, you want to also honor yourself. You want to make sure that you're coming into the relationship as a healthy and fed version of yourself and not giving in order to get, receive in return like you deserve. But if you're not making that clear, if you're not asking and you show somebody like, I'm so willing to give to you, and you just expect them to give in return, it can set you up to fall into relationships with people who are more takers. That's sort of a risk here. And another interesting thing about this energy is that appreciation for what is more understated, unseen, and the hidden nature of Neptune is that you could actually be attracted to more unavailable people, even like completely unavailable people, like prisoners, people in institutions. That is represented by this sign. So there can actually be a strong appreciation and love for like those who are looked down on in society. This is kind of a weird way to start this off, but I just wanted to address it. That idea of like seeing a criminal and thinking I could fix them, kind of an interesting side of the Pisces energy, but in a more healthy way. This sign really does see like sacrifice and service as not just honorable, but like truly desirable. It's a very natural way of being to give. And that's why you absolutely need to make sure that you are connecting with people who are also willing to give in return, people who are not just going to take from you. Because what this can also represent is more like karmic relationships and subconscious patterns, mirroring even, attracting people who really just show you those parts of yourself that need light shown on them, that need to be pulled out by other people. This can actually be a lot of turbulence in relationships, but can actually also lead to growing softer and more compassionate through difficult relationships. And this can also be an attraction to relationships or circumstances that are kind of like bittersweet or tragic, whether this is your own or more through like consuming media that has romantic relationships. You could really like that bittersweet quality where there are loose ends to tie up that don't get tied, that sort of feeling. It can be oddly satisfying because what this does is it shows us like the depth of the human experience and your ability to embrace imperfections, embrace the messy side of things. This is a confusing sign. Neptune and Pisces are inherently confusing, and there could be a tendency to confuse yourself, confuse other people, and be inconsistent because you match the energy of other people. You have the ability to shift. It's like a chameleon-like, where it's not that it's ingenuine necessarily, it's more picking up what other people are feeling, sensing things off of them, sensing things from your environment, and subtly shifting in those ways. So love or art, beauty, any of this can be a bit confusing. There can be where it feels like it's just like hard to see through certain things. And this comes from a very strong open-mindedness and acceptance, very universal acceptance, and just the fluidity of the energy. So being aware of just how fluid you can be can help a bit with the confusion. But this can also indicate a gift of like channeling, being able to channel all sorts of things, messages, other people's energies, information just out of the blue. This can be that a very strongly valuable part of you is your psychic energy, your intuition. But ultimately, relationships and connections for Venus in Pisces are about empathy and like resonance, resonating with another soul, connecting with them, whether it's temporary or forever, and having the full experience. Love can be a roller coaster with this. There can be a lot of ups and downs. But I really think that the beautiful thing with this sign is that, unless your chart indicates otherwise, resilience with Pisces tends to actually become more open, less closed off. It's almost like these experiences are exfoliating the calluses that other signs might grow in order to protect themselves. And that's because the more that you are able to get in connection with yourself and with your values and with what you bring to a relationship, what you want to experience in this lifetime, it's kind of like the more experiences you have, the stronger your sense of self can become. And through going through things, you learn who you are and you learn who you want to be in relation to other people. And with time, it becomes much more easy to be yourself in every situation, to have that comfort where you're like comfortable being you no matter what or who you're with. That is the ideal here. So challenges and growth opportunities. I guess these kind of come out during the video. So the challenges with this are going to be mainly the sacrificial nature, the desire to either save or be saved. That savior victim complex can be an issue here if you don't state what you need. This can be a very difficult journey of learning to assert your needs and to validate what you find important, to create value in your life based off of your ideals, regardless of what anyone else says. And then that deep sensitivity, it can be tough just to feel so much and to be able to sense so much. But it's a gift. It's something that you have to figure out in your own way, but this shows just such a deeply beautiful way of connecting with just energy in general. Whatever it is to you, whatever you truly value and truly enjoy, Venus is about learning to embody that and to prioritize that. And then there is the escapism side of this. So Venus represents our sense of sensuality, and sometimes the senses are one of the easiest things that we can use to numb ourselves, whether substances, distractions, avoidance in general. Venus in Pisces can indicate using the more sensual side of life to escape the hard things. But I also feel like the other worlds that we kind of escape into can be sources of inspiration, such deep inspiration. So I'm a firm believer in moderation. I wouldn't tell anyone to not do anything. Just be conscious of how much you do it and why, what your true intentions are. Because all sorts of substances can also be inspiring. We can be connecting to that Venus side of life and really enjoying it. But anything done too much actually becomes less enjoyable, which I'm sure you know that. But it can be important just with personal Pisces energy to check yourself, because certain things can be a slippery slope. And then there is the idea of a kind of dissolving identity, this mutable water energy, and the way that you're able to pick up on other people. I just think it's important to look at your chart, look at all of the parts of you that make you you, and considering your Venus as your value, the worth that you see within yourself. It's just important to not lose what makes you you for the sake of another person or a project or something that's deeply important to you. There's a balance here of experiencing the ethereal world, but also coming back to the material and taking what you've learned on your journey and sharing it, inspiring other people and showing them just how out there things can really be. This is just such a lovely connection to our true essence, our connection to one another and to everything. I know it comes with a lot of sensitivity, but it's meant to be experienced, and I think it's meant to be shared. And your appreciation of these things is just so valuable. And rely on the sensitivity, on your intuition, on what you're picking up on that other people are overlooking. So that's what I have to say about Venus in Pisces. If you have this placement, or if you have another placement, please feel free to tell me what you think and to add anything to this. It's such a beautiful energy, but the downside can be really difficult, I know. So thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye.